In 2023, South Korea recorded a total fertility rate of 0.72. That is the lowest ever measured for any country in recorded human history. But the fertility number is really just a symptom. The deeper story starts one step earlier, with the collapse of marriage itself. Korea's crude marriage rate fell to 3.8 per thousand people in 2023, according to Statistics Korea. That is less than half of what it was just 2 decades ago. A society that once treated marriage as an almost universal right of adulthood has quietly and very quickly walked away from it. So the question worth asking is not simply why Koreans are having fewer children. The real question is, why did they stop wanting to marry in the first place? And why have all the modern tools designed to help them find partners failed to reverse it? Statistics Korea data shows the total number of marriages in Korea fell to around 192,000 in 2023, down from around 334,000 in 2000 in the year 2000. That is a decline of more than 40% in roughly 2 decades. The share of men in their 30s who have never married has risen sharply. The OECD reported that Korea's never married rate among men aged 30 to 34 reached roughly 50% by the early 2020s, one of the highest in the developed world. Women are choosing to stay single at even faster rates. According to statistics, Korea, the average age at first marriage has risen to 34 for men and 31.5 for women as of 2023, both record highs. Meanwhile, the dating app market in Korea has grown steadily, with major platforms like Naver's app subsidiary and the app KakaoTalk linked services reporting millions of active users. More tools, more profiles, more potential matches, and still fewer marriages every single year. To understand why marriage collapsed, you need to understand what marriage has traditionally meant in Korea and how expensive and socially demanding that meaning has become. Historically, marriage in Korea came bundled with an entire infrastructure. A home, typically purchased or substantially prepared by the groom's family, a wedding that could cost tens of thousands of dollars, and the expectation of children almost immediately. According to a Korea Development Institute survey cited in local financial media, the average cost of getting married in Korea, combining housing, ceremony, and honeymoon, exceeded 60 million Korean won, roughly 45,000 US dollars as of the early 2020s. For a generation entering the worst housing market in Korean history, that starting price is prohibitive. The Korea Housing Finance Corporation has documented that apartment prices in Seoul more than doubled between 2015 and 2022. Young Koreans earning median wages simply cannot clear the financial bar that their own cultural expectations have set. Dating apps can connect two people. They cannot solve the cost of a lease. The consequences extend well beyond romance. Korea's National Pension Service has projected that the working-age population will shrink dramatically by mid-century if current trends hold, putting enormous strain on pension and healthcare systems. The Bank of Korea has explicitly flagged the declining birth rate, rooted in declining marriage, as the single largest long-term risk to GDP growth. There is also a cultural cost that is harder to measure. Surveys by the Korea Institute for Health and Social Affairs found rising rates of loneliness among adults in their 30s and 40s, even as social media and app usage climbed. And dating apps have introduced a new friction of their own. Researchers at Yonsei University have noted that the platforms tend to amplify existing socioeconomic sorting, meaning highly educated users in high-income brackets match with each other, while those outside that bracket disengage entirely. The apps did not democratize romance. They may have made the stratification more visible and more discouraging. Korea is not an outlier, it is a preview. Japan, Taiwan, Singapore, and now parts of Southern and Eastern Europe are tracing similar curves. Later marriage, lower fertility, rising singlehood, as housing costs and economic precarity collide with rising individual expectations. The Korean case makes one pattern especially clear. Technology can reduce friction in meeting, but it cannot reduce the friction of building a life together in an expensive, high-pressure society. Dating apps are matching tools. They were never structural reform tools. Governments across the developed world are watching Korea's demographic data very closely because the same forces, stagnant wages, unaffordable housing, and the cultural expectation that starting a family requires financial stability first, are already present in their own cities. Korea arrived at this inflection point first. The question for the rest of the world is not whether these pressures will arrive. It is whether they will respond faster than Korea has.